Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear. Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question. Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen, you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever. I hate this central bank digital currency. Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the rating tab for late night weekend viewers.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. My camera is always off, man. This is the ever-moving camera, right? It's like, woo, woo, woo. I got a special guest today, Mike C-Rock. He's waiting in the wings. I'm going to bring him in a second. We're going to talk. You know, I didn't really prep this with him, so I'm going to kind of surprise him with a few things. You know what? I'm just going to bring him in now. I'm not even going to do an intro. I'm just going to bring him in and have it that way. It's more fun. No one wants to hear me do a random intro, but hang on. I have to get him in. Hold on. All right, here we go. Let's see if this did it. There he is. Hey, Mike.
What's happening? Yo, you can't surprise me with anything.
All right. Well, and look at that studio, man. I'm ashamed now. I got my little stand-up comic wall behind me, and yours is like way better.
Well, you got the bricks, bro. I like the bricks.
I do have the bricks, but you've got like extra lights and all kinds of good stuff there.
Yeah, those lights are a little bright too tonight. I gotta fix that. But anyway, what's up, bro?
I like it.
How you doing?
It's all right. I don't mind being upstaged. You got a little bit of a Sylvester Stallone thing going on there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you, not the
how?
ball. It's kind of look a little like Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, okay. Okay. He's got better hair than I. He's got better hair than I do.
A younger Sylvester Stallone, like Sylvester Stallone, 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, how you
so
doing?
Mike,
how you doing?
So exactly, I can't do impersonations. I can impersonate myself. So, Mike, what do you think of my hat, though? We like the hat. The hat this way. Which way you like it better?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I rock the backwards hat sometimes. Right?
So look at that. When I take it off, it just shines. It looks ridiculous.
No, yeah, I like the hat. I wear a hat all the time, as most people know.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
I always wear it.
I'm a hat guy.
Sure.
So, sure. Mike, here's what I want to bring up. Some things going on in my head, okay? And everybody knows Mike C-Rock. I'm just going to call Mike. Let's just say, everybody, Mike is the super connector. So this guy basically, sets up a network where he invites really interesting, smart, dynamic people, trying to change things in the world around them. They could be lifestyle people. They could be health and fitness. They could be medical. They could be business. And he builds this network and he brings everyone in. And it's like a big, giant social group where everybody shares ideas. And it's pretty fascinating, Mike. Before we jump into the heavy duty stuff, it's pretty interesting what you've created. I mean, you've truly created like a model for a paradigm of growth, and you call it quantum. And I struggle with that, Mike, only because I'm missing the quantum part in that I can't seem to keep up with all that's happening in it. And, I'm like aware that like there's definite major energy inside that group. So, maybe just share a little on the quantum side. I don't even mean about the group. I mean, the quantum side of like where we're at, because you built this to be about helping people kind of push their consciousness next level. And you've made a business out of it, which is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, let me give you some background here so people have context what we're talking about. I've been in the podcast space for a long time. Been on over 1,200 podcasts as a guest in the last even 5 to 6 years. Done over 1,000 episodes of my own show. And obviously, I don't do solo episodes, so obviously you have to be having people on and you're meeting people. And then I had this agency called That One Agency where we book people on top podcasts. Like we're behind the scenes getting all these people that you see on social media with the clips. We're behind the scenes of most of them getting booked on podcasts. Well, all these people were coming into my life and I knew them and they knew me, but they didn't know each other. In a lot of cases, some did, but most didn't. And I said to myself, this is unacceptable. These people should know each other. And what are we doing about it? Like social media is so huge now that it's not like you can, meet. People don't meet a lot of times on social anymore unless they do it. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to centralize this network somehow. And it's not going to be perfect. Like you said, it can be overwhelming in a WhatsApp group where people are just chiming in constantly. And if you don't mute your notifications, it can be overwhelming. But I'm going to put it together and see what happens. And then I started to notice that people were getting a lot of benefit out of it. And then people came to me and said, C-Rock, listen, we'll invest in you if you put something together where we can meet up in person. Because this WhatsApp group's great, but it's surface level. Let's get together in person and do some amazing things together. And I said, yeah, but I'm not going to do I'm not going to do any events where we're sitting there listening to speakers. I don't do that. Like, I can't sit still. And so we put our first quantum expansion together. I named it because I've been studying quantum for a while, and I want to expand in all areas of my life. I think everybody else does as well, that I want to be around anyway. And so we just put this together, and we had our first event in Beverly Hills. And October, we rented a $25 million mansion, brought everybody together. It went as amazing, beyond what I thought it was going to be. And we do 4 events per year now where we bring amazing people together and put them in a room together and watch what happens with with the activities we put together. So
yeah,
that's
I love it. And anybody DM me if you want me to introduce you to Mike, although, he's very selective. No, so I'm kidding. You are selective and you're not. That's the great thing about you. It's not like you have a criteria. You don't have to have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of this. You just have to fit the basic, do you pass the test of are you out there to change consciousness or make a difference? One thing I like, it's not like there's 7 criteria you got to meet to fit in the group.
I just want to be around people that want to serve others, man, and do good things in the world, man. And again, people come to me, tell me what they've done in their life, how much money they made and all that. None of that matters if you're not a good person. I don't want to be around people that aren't good people. And nobody's perfect, but again, it's about wanting to do good and serve others. And if you're like that, I can help you. If you haven't made money or the money that you want to make, I can help you and show you how to make money. If you haven't gotten exposure and you're the best kept secret, I can show you how to get known and get attention. But one thing I can't get over is if somebody's a bad person that's destructive, and I don't want to be around that. So yeah, that's the criteria.
So Mike, let's shift gears for a minute. I want to talk about 2 things today. They're really different. And so everybody knows you didn't have any prep for this. You didn't know where I was coming with any of this. So you're free to be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. One of them is are you a football guy?
Yeah, I'm all sports. I love sports.
So, all right. So I've been watching this whole thing with the New England Patriots coach, Mike Vrabel, who is a former linebacker, and he's a great coach. And I watched this thing with coaches a lot where people represent a certain model of behavior. And I never loved it, but I get the value it is for young men to have a model, and young women too, in women's sports, to have an adult model that kind of helps them frame, focus. Tom Brady would be a great coach. I love watching Tom Brady now because, Mr. Good Boy is gone. I watched him do a thing the other day. It was a clip where he was talking to quarterbacks, and Drake May was one of them, and he's like, you got to fucking show up every day, dude. It's like the uncensored Tom Brady. He's kind of like, you think I go lean on I won the Super Bowl last year? He's like,
he's intense.
No. He's like, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to lose next time. But I watched this whole thing with Mike Vrabel and the whole little affair thing he was having. I'm not judging a person's personal life. You got to do what you do. It's your marriage. It's your relationships. But, he kind of lied about it, dismissed it oh, it's nothing. And then it turns out, Page 6 finds pictures of him 6 years ago making out with her. And it's like, okay, so you've been having an affair for 6 years. Okay. Your business, your life. But then he goes out, does a press conference, I'm focused on my family. I'm focused on my team. I'm going to take some time off conveniently over the weekend. And he's back on Monday.
Draft weekend. And weekend at that. It was draft weekend.
What's that?
He took off during draft weekend.
Draft weekend. Yes, draft weekend. Steps away.
One of the most important weekends of their team.
It is, but it is, but it was the weekend. And I thought, okay, this guy's just full of shit. I'm sorry. I'm like, there's no accountability. There's no ownership. There's no stepping up and going, you know what? I really messed up. And although it's none of your business, it is because I'm in the public eye and my family's involved in this. So I'm going to apologize to everyone and I'm going to do better. He was kind of just like, yeah, I got to take care of my family. And I'm thinking, who knows what his wife thinks? But it kind of bothered me, and that came on the heels of, or right ahead of hearing, what's his name, the former Jets player talking about their coach. Remember what's his name, the coach a couple of years ago? And he's like, he would do coke in the office before practice. And I'm like, wow. I'm just sort of like, are all role models gone, Mike? I'm just kind of like, again, Mike Vrabel's his own person. I wish he had more, you expect players to have accountability. I wish, I wish he had more accountability to just own, like, I really messed up here and I'm not going to dance around it and pretend and just be like, I'm going to take care of friends and family. Like, I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm being too judgmental, Mike. That's why I'm asking you, because you're a person who looks for character. And I'm like, it doesn't scream character to me.
Yeah, well, we're human beings. As human beings, we're terrible judges. So I'm not in the business of judging anyone. But what I do know is that you cannot lead others when you cannot lead yourself. You can't hold others accountable if you can't hold yourself accountable. Very simple lessons in leadership. And for me, when you, again, human beings are flawed, so nothing shocks me. Nothing surprises me. We saw this with the Michigan coach too. I think his name's Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'd won a national championship. But you're going to have a hard time, holding people accountable when you're shown not to be accountable to yourself. And so that's what I took from it, and again, I'm not judging. I'm a flawed individual myself. However, I've gotten a few things right. And one thing I'm very proud of is I've been married 23 years and I'm not running around on my wife. Now, I have a hard time doing business with people that I know are running around on their wives, because if they're running around on their wife, how are they not going to compromise their integrity?
Cheat on you in a different way.
Yeah. So I have discernment in that way, and the other thing is there's a lot of people that put this public persona out, this character out, and then they're not living it when nobody's looking. And so one thing that's really helped me in my life, Rob, is that I just pretend there's always somebody watching. For me, that's God. Okay. I am an unapologetic believer in God, and I have a great relationship with God. I pray all the time. And I just, hey, somebody's always looking. Somebody's always watching, so that keeps me in check. And what happens when you're misaligned with your private life and your public persona, you can't be as creative. You can't be as successful. You can't be as energetic. You can't be you. Right. And then what happens, you attract the public persona, which is not really you. You attract that person into your life, and it doesn't align with who you really are. So there's a lot of things here you can talk about, but that, to me, right there, just shows that they're going to have problems going forward, holding people accountable in that team.
Interesting. Yeah. And I want to be clear, I'm not judging either. I mean, I've cheated on relationships. I've owned that. I've got so many flaws and failures. I will give myself credit that I'm pretty good at owning them. And I've owned a lot of my failures in the public eye. When I had my, talk shows or whatever that were like on, national television, I owned a lot of stuff right out there to just sort of, maybe it was my own kind of like confession, and I think we each have our own relationship with God or a higher power, and we each have our own relationships with those we love. So I'm not saying this is like a judgment of him, like you cheated on your wife. I'm saying it more as a commentary on what you're talking about, on the role of leadership and how in the society we live in, it seems like when you do something wrong, until you get caught, you keep doing it. Then the minute you get caught, you just go public and say, I'm going to get counseling and, I should do better. And it feels really like, I don't know, it feels kind of gratuitous and insincere to me. It's like, well, you didn't decide to do better until you got caught. And then you're deciding to do better because publicly you have to do that so you don't lose your job or whatever. It doesn't feel like that's the real redemption story where you kind of go, I effed up and I'm going to pay for this. I'll give Morgan Wallen credit. When he got slammed with that whole thing where he used the N-word with his friends, which I always thought was, he was calling his friend, it was like not meant to be a racist slur. He was calling his white friend, you know what I mean? But he was like, don't make excuses for me. I did something. I see how it looks. I shouldn't have done it. I will take the hits. Like, don't everybody go say, he's like, nope, I'll deal with whatever they want to do. Cancel me, drop my label, do whatever. I will deal with that. I give him credit for that. Like, he didn't pretend, I'm better than that.
Look at his career after that, after he took accountability.
Yep.
So I agree. I mean, but it's hard. It's really hard to take accountability. It's not the easy route, but good things come from the hard route, the tinier road that you have to take. Most people take the big, wide, easy, flat road.
Have you ever had to do that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Matter of fact, this is not a serious situation, but my daughter the other day, she plays travel softball. And I have a problem with taking a third strike looking. Okay. Anything close when you have 2 strikes. Anybody knows baseball. You got 2 strikes. You don't leave it up to the umpire, right?
Right.
And I'm
Take a
sitting in the
swing.
chair over to the left, and I see her take a 3rd strike, and we had a car ride home, and I said, "Listen, you can do anything you like in this game, but do not look at 3rd strikes. Anything close, you got to hit it." And I'm telling her how important that is. And I wanted it ingrained in her. Then I went back. Nowadays they have technology. It's called Game Changer. And you can go on Game Changer and look at clips and at bats, right? And you can see it right from behind the plate. And the pitch was like a foot outside. Okay. I messed up because I didn't see that. And she knew it was outside. And she said, I didn't swing at it because it was way outside. I'm like, okay, it was too close to take, When I saw the video, I was like, oh, I felt terrible. Now, this isn't cheating on my wife, but this is like still a situation where I had an integrity situation going on here with my daughter. And our relationship matters to me. So as soon as I saw it, I said, I had to call her down from her room. I said, hey, come downstairs. And I said, I got to apologize to you about something. I messed up. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I got on you about taking 3rd strike, too close. Anything close, you got to swing. You got to go for it. That pitch was a foot outside. I saw it on the video and I made a mistake and I want to apologize. You know what that did for our relationship? It made us closer. It made her trust me more. It provided an example as a leader of my household to show when you mess up, own it. Right? How many NFL players run around on their wives? You think it's a high percentage? It's a high percentage, right? Well,
I mean, I think it's less than in basketball, but yes, I'd say the NBA is the highest, and then and then football. Baseball's the least.
He had an opportunity to be a leader and an example to the other players of how to handle a situation when you get into trouble. Right? A player could get caught drunk driving, caught with a gun. They could get caught. Some players get caught dealing drugs. All kinds of things happen, right? But he had an example that he missed the opportunity to show what you do when you mess up. And how to I say be a man, but it's being a woman too. Be an integrity, and own your mistakes. So
you're right. It's true because if a player messes up under the coach makes the player show up and hold accountability. Right, as a coach, if you mess up, you're right. The best thing you could do as a leader is show them through your own actions. I messed up, and I'm going to now do the very thing I would make you do. Whatever that looks like, however hard that is, I'm going to do it. And I get it. And I'm not going to lie, I lost some respect there. I was like, yeah, he's a good coach, But I think you're right. The team will deal with that because the player's like, okay, so we know who coach is. Take it now with a grain of salt. You take the lessons with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I just think there was a missed opportunity there. And but that goes to show somebody that can be successful at something doesn't mean they're not flawed individuals, that they're not going to mess up. No. They don't know how to be a great leader sometimes in all areas. Right. We put people on a pedestal sometimes. And if you put somebody on a pedestal, you're putting them up there to fall.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm not saying anybody's perfect. Like I said, I'm far from perfect. So I'm going to move to the second thing real quick, Mike, here. I'm like, the whole thing you're doing with that one network and connecting people, it's a beautiful connection of human beings. And then I look at the world we live in. I look at what happened the other night at the correspondence dinner. And it was fascinating to me on a couple levels, right? One, like we live in a world where political violence has been normalized. Now, I know it's normalized all over the world and our nation was born out of political violence. But, I think, it's fair to say this is a big thing in the 60s. We had a lot of political violence and we kind of had a period with a lot less. And now we seem back to normalizing the idea that demonize someone enough and somebody's going to grab a gun. And again, they may go shoot at the president. They may go shoot up a school. They may go shoot up a church. It's just this idea that a shopping mall, their workers, a job where they got fired. And it really bothered me, the extent to which we've normalized it. And then when it happens, everybody condemns it, but they don't really change the rhetoric. And both sides do it. Both sides of the political spectrum use the political rhetoric and are hostile toward one another. And Trump included. I mean, he doesn't get a free pass here. But it really struck me that I've watched journalists cover these events, including Butler, where someone tried to assassinate the president, and well, he wasn't president then, he was former president. And I watched how the media covered it. And it was fascinating to me, Mike, that this is the first time I've seen them cover it with the same level of compassion for what it was. And I was like, right, because they were all there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
suddenly
was gonna
they're
say,
like,
yeah.
they're like, you know what? People should, even like an MS Now, whatever, MSNBC, whatever they call themselves now. Host was like, I'm not okay. It's black dude. He's like, I'm not a super liberal, progressive. He's like, I'm not okay with people saying this was like a setup or whatever. He's like, well, I was there. He's like, we were all scared. We had to call our loved ones. We had to phone, home, and we're alive. And I was like, right, you suddenly touched this thing and it made it real for you. And now you have compassion. Otherwise, it would have just been like, oh, another shot at somebody, somewhere, a school, the president. We didn't like the president, make a joke, and it really stunned me. I was like, right, why are they so sensitive? Because they were there. And they were scared for their lives, which, like, be honest, a part of me thought that was kind of pathetic. I'm like, oh, because, truthfully, y'all were safe. Like, there were like 80 people with guns pointing around the room. Like, I'll give Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense or War, whatever they want to call it, credit. He was like, nobody needs to take me out of here. I can walk. I'm fine. But like, everyone's cowering under the table. Like, oh, like,
you know what I noticed? I noticed Dana White didn't cower. He stood up. He was just looking around. RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy, he was just sitting straight up.
Yep.
Probably still eating a salad, maybe. And there was another guy from New York that has an agency. I don't know his name. He was Christina Amanpour's guest, and he was eating his burrata salad throughout the whole thing. And he said, "Hey, I'm from New York. This is, we live in this environment. There's sirens going off all the time. You know what I mean?" He's like, "This is nothing new to me." But I what better of an I shouldn't say better. I guess it was optimized because of it being the national correspondent dinner and having all the journalists there and all the cameras there, and their first instinct is to get their cameras out and record. I just thought that was so ironic that was happening. And you're right. They had a reality with it because they experienced the emotion and the fear from it, and it was wild. And, I think that the rhetoric is intentional. I don't think it's by accident. I think that, if somebody were to take out the president, there would be people on the other side that would be happy. They may not admit it.
Tons of they would admit it.
And there would be some crazies, but I'm saying some of the most well-known, I don't think they would admit it. But they deep down, I think that they, look, I'm not a fan of politicians. I really, they're not there for themselves or the people that they represent. I'm very few, if any, and they're all being paid or compromised in one form or fashion. So, for me, seeing that's, I don't know.
No, and I think I want to be clear. I think it goes both ways. I mean, I worked, inside the Clinton White House in the 90s, and I was inside. And I wasn't a Democrat. I was an independent, but I was inside the White House. I was there. I knew the president. And I knew, I launched, I'm New York Times calls me the original spokesperson of Generation X. Like, I was part of all of that. And I guarantee you, Republicans most Republicans wouldn't have shed a tear if Clinton had gotten killed. Like, they would have been like, oh, that's too bad, but like, good, he's out of the way now. They certainly would have been happy to see him crash and burn, And I think this goes both directions. So you're right. This is not about one side gets the high water mark. It's like, no, you both do the same thing, which sort of doesn't serve us. And it leads me to this thought, Mike, which is, I feel like we're in like a cultural, political civil war, not just where there's division. We've like hit civil war level. Again, not with people shooting literally, lined up on the streets against each other, but we're pretty close to like, people aren't inviting people to dinner because they have a different viewpoint. People are losing family, friendships. There is political violence. The cultural political divide seems to me almost like too far to bridge, which breaks my heart because it's like at some level, we got to build a bridge back. Like, we can't function if we don't, right? But it looks like, I love what you're doing with, but yours isn't a political thing. You know, that one network's not a political
Yeah,
space.
you can't bring politics into this environment that I have for sure. No, because it would ruin it. But here's the thing: what happens with people? I really, because if you're on one side or the other, and us that say we're like independent, we're in the middle, whatever. We have our views that make sense to us. You'd agree with that, right? You have views that make sense to you. You may not share all of them because of the fact that you don't want to not be invited to dinner, for example. But I think it really comes down to people are on different operating systems, like Apple versus Microsoft, right? They don't make sense to each other. Like the copy and paste feature on a Microsoft is Control C and then Control V, but on a Mac it's not. So if you try to do Control C or Control, maybe it might be, but I don't know Mac.
No, it's not. I've done it.
Okay, so they don't make sense to each other, and then so each person on each side, it just can't make sense. First of all, that's the first part of it. You can't make sense. I don't understand how they can possibly think that way, right? It's different operating systems. Secondly, people take the operating system that they have and they attach it to their personality and their character, so that when someone else is talking about from a different operating system, they feel like it's an attack on their personality, their character, and they got to take things personally. So if I really think lack of knowledge on this topic, what I've just shared with everybody here, the lack of understanding that people are on different operating systems, number one. Number two, they attach it to their character, their personality. And so once you understand that, you can navigate this world better, because you will not, if you understand that and you have the knowledge, you will not take it personally. And secondly, you'll understand what to share and what not to share with other people, because you know that they'll take it personally. And if you care about a relationship, or if you care about being invited to a dinner or what have you, you're going to understand how to navigate that because of the knowledge that I just shared.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm really bad at that, in that I do say what I think, and maybe that doesn't get me invited to dinner sometimes. But I do it in a respectful way. But I'm really bad at not saying what I think. Again, I'm not a person who like insults people, or you know what I mean. So it's not like I'm going to say really offensive things to someone. But I will. I was at a thing, a year ago or so, whatever, and a family member of my girlfriend, was really like clear on like how RFK Jr. was like the stupidest person on the planet. And I was like, he's not stupid. I've met him. She's like, no, he's an idiot. I was like, he's actually one of the smartest people you'd ever meet. You don't necessarily have to like him, but he's not a stupid human being by any means. He's like way off the chart smart. And, it caused a bit of friction, but I was like, I'm not going to just be like, yeah, that's your view. I'm like, no, he's not. And maybe sometimes I need to check what I say, but I will never be the one saying,
no,
you're
but Rob,
an idiot.
here's the thing.
I won't do that. I won't call you an idiot. I just might.
No, but here's the thing. Why say that to them unless you're trying to prove a point, which is tied to your ego? It's tied to wanting to be right. People want to be right versus successful, right? They'll jeopardize a relationship because they want to be right. It happens in marriages all the time. Arguments happen. And the reason that they continue to go down the road even further to, really hurtful things being said, violence, is because they're so concerned about protecting their ego and being right they're prioritizing that over being successful. So, for example, in that situation, if somebody said, yeah, RFK, he's the biggest idiot. I don't even understand that guy. He's like so out there, this and that. Okay. You're not going to change their mind. If they had that, they're dug in, you're not going to change their mind. But so if it's really, to me, I don't get in arguments with people about that stuff, because it's like, I don't need my ego stroked. I don't need to be right. I don't really care about that, and so that's the way I approach it. I never get in debates about that kind of stuff, because you're not going to change people's mind, especially in politics,
Well, it's interesting.
Different operating systems, Rob.
Yeah. I will be the first to admit, and in fairness to me, she asked me what I thought of him because I've met him a few times. But nonetheless, I will acknowledge that it is ego at some level. You're right. I will try to be right very often rather than just be like, no. And it's a great question to ask. Why do we feel we have to be right? It's sort of like, okay, that's how you see it. That's how you see it.
Well, but Rob, here's why. I have the answer to this too. I don't have all the answers, but I have some of them. Look,
Mike's giving me all the answers.
No. Being right means survival to a lot of people, right? Being right is tied to surviving. If we're wrong, that's opposite. That's non-survival in a lot of cases when you're so ego driven, right? It is. I'm not accusing you of being ego driven, but I'm just telling you that being right.
I'm taking it.
Being right is tied to survival. So if you think about this, am I really going to die if I'm not right with this argument? No. Okay. Well, what's the sense in having it? Because it's just at what cost, right? Like your girlfriend, I'm sure in that situation, it caused maybe some friction in your relationship. Possibly, right. I don't know. But maybe on the ride home, you guys are arguing like, why did you have to do that? Why did you have to go in on Aunt Sally? Like, this is the way she is. Why did you, just swallow it? Just, whatever. But you got to ask yourself the question, at what cost? Because it's, I've never gotten in an argument like that and felt better about it at the end.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you've been married 23 years or whatever.
Oh, for sure. I tell my wife all the time, you know what? I get it. I get it. Okay. And she can't argue when you disagree. You're like, oh yeah. Okay. And move on next, so.
All right. So if we could do this as a country, we would have a shot. But we're not very close to doing it as a country. I mean, we're struggling with it as individuals, but I mean, we're going the other way as a country. Like everybody's screaming to be right. And I don't think, the frameworks, I don't think social media, the way it's set up, reinforcing what we think, the algorithms, I don't think it's helping us get closer. I mean, I really do think we're going like this. We're going farther and farther apart right now.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Eventually everything's a cycle. So I really believe that the more conversation you have, the more agreement you have. And the more agreement you have, the more reality that you have with people. And then the more affinity you have for people when you communicate more. So I think more conversations need to be had, not necessarily debates, but just talking about it. Like I'm open. I had a guy on my show the other day, and he before we pushed record, he said, "Hey, I don't know what your beliefs are, but I'm an out, gay person and this and that." And I was like, okay. I don't know what he thought I was going to say or do. I'm like, okay, let's go. I said, but just know that I'm going to have some questions for you because I'm curious. And when we push record, I'm asking him all kinds of questions about what he brought up. I wouldn't even have brought up his sexual preference while we were on the show, but he brought it up. So I had questions. I was curious. Like, what's it like to be married to a husband? And, you talk about men are from Venus and women are from Venus, men are from Mars, whatever the book that came out. Like, what's it like with a husband? Like, you've got testosterone together versus testosterone and estrogen. What's that like to live with? How do you guys solve conflicts? What was it like coming out? I wouldn't ask those questions if he didn't bring that up, but I'm open-minded.
Yeah, I would.
And look, when you go to church and things, they don't necessarily agree with homosexuality, right? So I could have been like, yeah, that's wrong, that's sin. No, I was like, okay, let me understand this. Where are you coming from? And I'm just an open dude. Like I'm curious. I want to learn from somebody, and I want to put myself in their position and see what it's like. And I don't think that happens enough in this country. What's it like to be in their shoes under that operating system?
And honestly, Mike, and we're going to wrap in a couple minutes here, but a number of years ago, I took a group of students from USC Law School, and I was working with a program called Aim for the Heart, which a woman named Layla Steinberg put together. She was Tupac's original manager that helped him become big, and she liked to give back and work with communities that were like struggling. And these kids at USC Law School were not in that group, but we were doing stuff at San Quentin at the prison with lifers. And we did a thing, and I filmed it before we went, and interviewing these kids, these law students, about the experience we were about to have. And almost to a person, they were like, that person is not me. Like, they're a murderer. They're a horrible human being, And I'd ask them, would you be friends with them? No. Would you want them to date your sibling? No. Would you give them a job? Probably wouldn't want to. And we went and spent a day with them. And these were lifers who obviously had made a decision to own talk about where we started, accountability, to own the accountability of their actions and to recognize they've done an irreversible act and they might spend their life in prison suffering for that. I mean, paying for that, but they could at least hold themselves accountable going forward in their actions and in their life. And it was a remarkable day with these kids, with these lifers. And when we came back, almost every one of them was like, like, I now realize basically there, but for the grace of God, I could have been that guy at 17 who grew up in a really crappy neighborhood with no choices and made a really bad decision one day and shot somebody. You know, like they went from never be my friend to wow, these people are like just humans like me. And you just made me think of that. It's sort of like if you could walk in somebody else's shoes before you judge them, like what a difference it would make for all of us.
Did they have an opportunity to communicate with them, having conversations with
Oh,
them?
yeah. We spent a day
Okay.
together with them,
Okay, so
talking back and forth, watching them, interacting. Yeah, no, we had the
yeah,
whole.
so you see what I'm
it-
saying with not just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, but communication creates an opportunity for having an understanding of reality with someone else, right?
Mhm.
And then you actually have an affinity for them. You
Mhm.
have a some kind of care or liking of them, because what happens,
Mhm.
you look at this as a triangle, and one point's a communication, and it's an equilateral triangle. So if a communication goes up, to keep it an equilateral triangle, your affinity and your agreement or reality has to go out too. So
Mhm.
communication solves, it's the cause of all problems and it's the solution to all problems. So they communicated
I
with them,
like that.
and they came out of
Yeah.
this understanding better where these people were coming from, who they were, and they changed their whole perspective.
Mhm. It was, yeah, that's perfectly put. It was a powerful experience.
Yeah.
The transformation was the most exciting part, you know. And for me, communicating with them, just, I mean, I'm not a super judgmental person, but I'm judgmental enough to go, you really effed up. You just, you know, you killed someone or multiple, whatever, you know, you did something you can't take back. Um, but it was remarkable the effort certain people go to own that, account for it, and move forward, even in the way of wanting to prevent other people from following in their shoes and doing the same misjudged actions, you know? And again, I mean, you know, I'm not super religious, but I will always think when Jesus said people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, he really was saying, FYI, you all live in glass houses. So it's like, you know, basically not those of you who happen to be in glass houses, it's like you're all in glass houses. Like, so none of you should be throwing stones.
Yeah. I mean, it says, what's it say also about the plank in your own eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know, yeah. Like
Right.
I said it before, we're all human beings are flawed to some degree.
Yep.
You know, I remember a
Yeah.
time when I was bouncing at a bar, and a guy was drunk and he was trying to fight this other guy, and I was trying to get him out of the situation, and I'm taking him out of the bar, this and that, and he swings at me, right? And then I just reacted and I hit him right in the nose, and he crumbled. And thank God that's all that happened to him. He just fell and he got back up, whatever. But like he could have banged his head,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I could have been put away for manslaughter. You know, there's times when I was younger and I was an idiot and I had too much to drink and I got in a car behind the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
thank God nothing happened.
Yeah. We've all
So
done it.
yeah,
We've all made those choices, you know.
yeah.
I will leave it on this, Mike. I want to acknowledge what you said about the ego. Um, Nahito Danoya, who's I don't know if you know who he is. They call him the Filipino Flash. He was the 3-time featherweight boxing champion, and he won the 3rd time a couple like 4 or 5 years ago, and he was 36. So it was, you know, he'd won young, won the middle, won older, right? A little guy, but fierce fighter. Um, Told me this story about being out with his wife, and he had a really, you know, still has really beautiful wife, and he would be out at places, and people would like. He didn't mind if people flirted or did whatever. He wasn't like uptight, but sometimes drunk guys, they'd be inappropriate. He'd be like, "Hey, no, this stops right now." And occasionally, big guys look at him as a little guy and kind of get all testosterone and be like, "You, whatever, you want to take it up with me, da da da, whatever." And he said he would always say to them, "Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not going to hit you. but if you hit me, you're going to be in the hospital. Like, but it's up to you. And they'd be like, oh, little guy, I think you're so tough. And I was like, did anyone ever hit you? He's like, nope. And I thought, right. Because he was so clear and confident that he was like, if you swing at me, it's all over for you. I don't care how big you are, how little you think I am. And it's some part of their brain got it. And they would walk away and they go, it's your lucky day, dude. It's your lucky day. And he would just laugh and be like, no, actually. And then I asked him, I was like, okay, but let's say the guy was this big ass dude. He was like, unless he was like a trained fighter, there's no big ass dude I couldn't put on the floor in 2 punches. Like,
Right.
I could send anyone to a hospital in 3 punches. I mean, I'm not somebody who was like my skill level bigger than me, but anybody else doesn't matter, especially if they've had a
Buddy,
few
one of the drunk guys, and he told me a story one time. He was in a bar and he was acting up, and he got in a fight with a boxer, a professional boxer, and he said it was like fighting an octopus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he was smaller than him. But there's no way you could have told me that he didn't have 8 arms the way he was hitting.
Right.
Me, you know, so
No, I know. And I'll just say, and they called Nahito the Filipino Flash because he was so fast. I will say, to my own discredit, he tried to teach me to box. And after a couple attempts, he was like, wow, Rob, he's like, thank God you don't get in fights and you talk your way out of them. Because he's like, I've never met anybody so unable to like fight. He's like, tried. He'd be like, no. He's like, seriously, don't get in a fight. He's like,
just run.
Like, I don't. I talk my way out of it.
Or just run. Turn around and run.
Turn around.
Nowadays, hey,
No,
I used to be able to. I still probably can. I haven't fought in a long time. I wrestled, and but I was just thinking the other day. I see these fight videos pop up on TikTok or Twitter, X or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I ever got in a situation like that, and my family wasn't in danger or something, it was just somebody trying to come at me, I'd say, listen, I don't want that smoke, man. You're good, and I'll walk away or run. And I'm not trying to prove. Again, my ego thing is solved. I don't need that in my life. So
I love it. Mike C. Rock, what a great conversation. I appreciate you taking time coming on.
My pleasure, bro. Thanks for having me.
I'm grateful to be part of that one network. Amazing thing you're doing there. You're connecting people, and that's what we all need more of. So it's the right time for that.
Thank you. I agree, man.
And
I agree.
Nothing better.
I looked at something when I was creating this thing, and I was like, man, what can be AI proof? Right? What can be AI proof? You can't create this with AI.
Nope. No.
Thank you.
Because the one thing AI can't be is human.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for recognizing
that's the one thing that will stand out, being human. I swear to God, we're going to get to a point where AI is going to take everything so far, people are going to just crave whatever's human. They're going to have the perfect sex bot, whatever, and people will be like, I'll take the ugly person because at least they're human. Like,
Yep. I just saw Tucker talking about that today. I think I saw a clip. He's talking about it. Eventually AI is going to fizzle out when it comes to the things that people are talking about. It's going to be able to do, because human beings, like, they need connection. They need other human beings. Like, that's part of survival.
We want flaws. We want imperfection.
Yeah.
Connection and imperfection. Yeah.
I'm
going to start my own group. I'm going to call it the Connection and Imperfection Group.
Yeah. I like it. All
right, Mike. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Mike C. Rock, everybody.
Bro. Appreciate you, man.
Bye.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question. Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen, you're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever. I hate this central bank digital currency.